Welcome to MindSprout. We're continuing on our journey through the Faerie Queene, and today we're tackling the second book. And let me tell you, this one's a fascinating look at a hero who seems to be the perfect knight, but as we're about to find out, perfection comes with a whole set of its own very strange problems.
So, Book 2 introduces us to a brand new hero, Sir Guyon. His whole mission is to embody one single, really powerful virtue. So what is it?
The virtue at the very heart of Book 2 is temperance. Now, what does that actually mean in Spenser's world? Well, he's pulling this idea straight from classical thinkers like Aristotle. And for them, temperance wasn't about, avoiding pleasure altogether.
It's all about finding that perfect middle ground, the mean between taking too little enjoyment in things and indulging way too much. It sounds like the absolute ideal state, right? But this brings up a really interesting question about our hero. I mean, a knight who seems flawless, who has total mastery over his impulses from the get-go. Where's the conflict? Where's the story in that?
Well, as soon as Guyon starts his quest, Spenser immediately starts messing with our idea of what a chivalric knight is even supposed to be. Instead of gaining power and winning glory, Guyon's journey is actually about being systematically stripped of everything that makes him a knight in the first place.
Think about it. A knight's whole identity is tied up in his horse and his armor. So what does it mean when our hero starts losing both, almost right away? His horse and spear get stolen by this loudmouth braggart, which is a huge humiliation for any knight, and it forces him to continue his entire quest on foot.
And the humiliation doesn't just stop with walking. After this incredibly grueling trial, he completely collapses. And while he's out cold, his enemies literally strip him of his shield and helmet.
And then, finally, in what has to be his most vulnerable moment, even his last line of defense is taken away. His sword is actually given to Prince Arthur to use in a battle that Guyon himself is too weak to fight. He is left with absolutely nothing.
So here's the crucial point. Guyon becomes this kind of anti-chivalric hero. He operates totally outside the normal rules of knighthood. A typical knight fights on horseback, seeks glory, kills his enemies, and is usually driven by some kind of romantic love. But Guyon, he's on foot. He never actually kills a single person in the entire book. He even breaks the chivalry code by striking an opponent's horse, and there is zero romance plot for him. He's basically the opposite of everything we expect.
This whole unknighting of Guyon is building towards the book's central crisis. It's where his classical, self-reliant virtue gets pushed to its absolute limit. Spenser is basically asking, what happens when a hero relies only on his own willpower, no matter how strong it is?
Guyon's biggest test comes in the Cave of Mammon, which is a literal descent into an underworld packed with temptation. For 3 days and 3 nights, he's offered unimaginable riches, power, you name it, and he resists it all through sheer force of will. No food, no water, no rest. It's an incredible display of pure fortitude. He comes out victorious, having beaten every single temptation with his own inner strength. But at the very moment of his triumph, right as he steps back into the light, his human strength just gives out. He collapses into this death-like trance, proving that even the strongest will in the world has its breaking point.
And this is where Spenser's Christian worldview really comes into focus. Get this. Despite Guyon's flawless performance, the poem calls him wicked. Why? Because from this perspective, his total self-reliance is a form of pride. He's only saved when Prince Arthur, who's a symbol of divine grace, shows up to rescue him. The message is pretty clear. Human virtue all by itself just isn't enough.
So, reborn and now aided by grace, Guyon finally reaches his goal, the Bower of Bliss. It's the home of an enchantress named Acratia, and it's basically an artificial paradise designed to lure knights away from their quests. And you have to notice this key detail. The knights inside are disarmed, with their armor just hanging on trees. The very state that was forced on Guyon is what these men have chosen willingly.
So after capturing Acrasia, Guyon doesn't just pack up and leave. Nope, he unleashes a tempest of his wrathfulness and just violently destroys the entire beautiful, artful garden. This is a genuinely shocking moment. I mean, how can the hero of moderation, of the perfect middle way, commit an act of such complete and utter destruction?
This scene is easily the most debated part of Book 2. Critics have been arguing about it for centuries, and you can really boil it down to 2 main interpretations. On one hand, some people see it as a moral allegory. The bower isn't truly beautiful. It's a toxic illusion,
an unnatural fake designed to corrupt people. So destroying it is a necessary, righteous act. But on the other hand, a lot of critics argue that Guyon's violence is actually a sign of his own repression, that he can't handle the raw, erotic beauty of the place, so his only response is to destroy what he fears.
So what this all means is that Guyon's journey completely redefines temperance. It's not just about passively resisting things. Spenser is making a case for a new kind of virtue, one that's been tested by failure and then totally remade through grace.
You can actually see the evolution of this virtue right in Guyon's journey. He starts out as this perfect model of classical self-control, relying completely on his own reason and willpower. But that fails. He collapses, and he's only saved by divine grace. And from that experience, a new kind of temperance emerges. It's an active, defensive virtue, one that understands it has to sometimes act forcefully, maybe even violently, to protect itself from a corrupting world.
So what we ultimately learn is that for Spenser, true temperance in our fallen world isn't some peaceful, balanced state. It's a vigilant, active, and sometimes destructive struggle to protect yourself from a world that's just full of alluring but toxic illusions. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. Is this aggressive form of temperance a necessary tool for survival, or is it a warning about a virtue that has lost its own sense of moderation?